The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome to this morning's Helpline session with your host, James McDonald.
Well, Andrea, you should say Happy New Year at least. Come
Happy
on now.
New Year! Happy New Year!
Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you, Andrea, and Happy New Year to all of our participants on our Monday morning helpline session here, the very first one of 2016. So welcome, everybody. And remember, the purpose of these open forum helpline Q&As is that we can discuss anything you like. It's an open forum, and you want to talk about lead generation or lead conversion or setting up any systems or USPs, anything at all. Sky's the limit. We can talk about it here. But first of all, I hope everyone had a fantastic holiday, a great new year. I hope everybody feels like their battery's recharged and you're ready to make a quantum leap in 2016. And obviously I've been doing this a long time with Craig, and we've coached thousands and thousands of students over many, many years now. And what I have observed over and over and over and over again is that the key to having a good year is having a good start. In other words, it's a lot easier to keep momentum than to get it in the first place. So if we can start building momentum now at the very, very, very beginning of the year, there isn't any question that you're going to carry that momentum all the way through, and you're going to really build on that. And it's also one of those things where you become less likely, less reluctant to stop pushing when you've had a really good start and you see progress. So I guess what I'm saying is this: what we really want to think about here at the very beginning of the year is, what are we going to implement that is different from what we've been implementing in 2015? What is it, in addition to just doing more of what is working, what else are we going to implement? What else are we going to put in place that's going to cause us to make an improvement, to grow even further? And, having said that, what's also interesting is that, a quantum leap in production is what we talk about pretty often, most typically. Sell more, bigger numbers. But honestly, we also have to consider that if you did exactly the same amount of production because you're satisfied with the production you're doing, but you did it in a fraction of the time or with a fraction of the effort, or you were doubly as profitable, well, that would be a quantum leap as well. So we want to consider all of this. Now, coming up in January or later on this month, we have our San Francisco boot camp. So for those of you that are on the West Coast, on Friday, January the 15th, so that's coming up in a little more than a week, we're going to be doing our full day boot camp. Now, for everybody on the West Coast, it would be a great idea for you to attend. I know we did one back in November in Huntington Beach, so it'll be the same deal as that. But there are some of you that weren't able to make it. We've got all of our new coaching students from up in the Bay Area. It's an awesome day. The timing couldn't be better, right in the beginning of January. And we're going to work on exactly what we're saying here, which is, what are we going to put in place in terms of lead generation, in terms of additional systems? What plan are we going to put in place in terms of hiring people as needed that are going to cause us to, next January, look back and say, I made a quantum leap in my business. Now, at the same time, Craig is doing a boot camp in Toronto on January. When is the coaching boot camp in Toronto? Do we have one scheduled yet, Andrea? I don't think that is. This is the Platinum boot camp.
Yeah, and I don't know. Let me check and see if there's anything under the events on the site.
I'm not sure if that's I'm not sure if that one has been booked yet, but for the West Coast, January 15th, and then in Toronto, Craig does the boot camps all the time in Toronto as well. So for those of you that are on the East Coast, there'll be one for you there. But having said that, here's something that would be really a neat exercise for you to do, okay? What I want you to do when you have a little bit of time is, I would like you to go back to when you started the program. Okay, now let me give you a couple of examples of this. Let's say that you started the Craig Proctor coaching program, or at least you started your lead generation using the system in earnest. You started generating leads back in April of 2015. okay? What I want you to do is I want you to go back in your database to April of 2015, and I want you to randomly select 20 prospects that you generated in April of 2015. Okay, now hear me carefully. I don't want to lose anybody. I want you to select 20 prospects that you generated in April of 2015. And I want you to trace those 20 prospects and tell me what happened with those 20 prospects. How many of them did you talk to? How many of them were converted to appointments and contracts? Did any of them result in sales? Okay, then I want you to do the exact same thing, but I want you to fast forward to August. I want you to go to August. I want you to go ahead, 4, 5, 6 months. And I want you to look at 20 random prospects from August. And what I want you to be able to do is look, when you select 20 random prospects, I want you to see that indeed you are making progress. In other words, you will find that 4, 5, 6 months later, you're speaking to more of the leads on average, you're booking more appointments, you're getting more contracts signed. In other words, you are making progress. And when you randomly select prospects from different time frames in 2015, you'll see that that's what's happening. Here's what's more valuable though. What you're going to discover is what is broken. And that is, if you're going to make a quantum leap in 2016, the only way that's going to happen is if we fix what is actually broken. So if you go back and you look at your 20 sampling of leads from various points in 2015, what you're going to find is that there are common threads. For example, a common thread might be this. I only spoke to 3 of the 20 prospects that I selected randomly. Okay, well, I'll tell you right now, you're never going to make a quantum leap if you're speaking to 3 out of 20 prospects. I don't care that you've improved dramatically with your universal callback script. I don't care that your appointment is flawless. None of that is relevant if we don't fix the part that's really going to cause you to make the quantum leap, which is we need to be able to say, in April, I spoke to 3 out of 20 of the random prospects that I'm sampling. In August, I spoke to 15 of the 20 prospects. That's how you're going to cause a quantum leap to happen, is by identifying the shortcoming in what is happening with these random prospect samplings and fixing and tackling that particular element. So this is an exercise that you could probably do in half an hour if you go back in your database and search by date, or go back on your day timer. Hopefully you're using a contact management system where you can simply go back to your day timer to the date, go back to April, go back to May, whenever you can do it. I mean, obviously there's going to be variances depending on when you started lead generation, but the point is if you just choose a small sampling, maybe 20 is a good number to begin with. It's manageable. I just want you to look and see what happened with those 20 prospects. And then I want you to go to a time period more recently. See what happened with those 20 prospects. We will see common threads, good and bad. The idea is to fix the bad. So I just wanted to give you that as a kind of a place to start. Now, one of the things that Craig's going to be talking about when he gets back is business planning, and creating a real business plan where essentially you're looking through the other end of the telescope, determining, here's my moving goal that I want. I want to sit here at the end of 2016 and say, this is what we have accomplished. And the only way to do that is by knowing what do we have to do on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis, and really on a daily basis in order for that yearly goal to be fulfilled. What do we need to do? How many leads do we need to generate per day? How many need to be converted into appointments, into contracts, into sales in order to reach that goal at the end of the year? The way that we do that is by looking backwards through the end of the telescope. But what you also want to note is that it's a moving target. In other words, what you will find with your business plan is it will constantly be edited throughout the year. It'll be adjusted throughout the year, maybe micro adjusted, but it will be adjusted throughout the year as things change, and hopefully more of the adjustments will be upwards than downwards. That's the goal. But anyway, I wanted to give you some food for thought, and then I wanted to really encourage you to speak up. And you can type your question in the chat, when I say question, really, I also mean topics of discussion as well. Of course, we can talk about anything you like to do with the system, but again, just to reiterate for anyone who signed in a little late, what I have observed over many, many, many years involved with the coaching program is that the key to making a quantum leap and having a phenomenal year is by having a great start. If you don't have a great start, it makes having a great year more challenging than if you do have a great start. So it just makes sense that we hit the ground running. And the best way to do that is by identifying what is it that isn't working well enough that would cause me to really get a boost in my production and cause us to have different results, better results than what we've been having. So anyway, having said that, you can also share with me anything that you did on the holiday. I'd love to hear. A lot of you were able to take a little bit of time off, which is wonderful. I hope you did some new and exciting things and spend time with friends and family and all that jazz. Anyway, Andrea, I know you had a great holiday and New Year.
Yes, I did.
True, isn't it?
It was awesome.
Now, you didn't get hit with a tornado or anything like that, I hope.
No.
That wasn't near you, was it?
Luckily not. No, our weather wasn't that bad.
Well, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. Okay, well, who have we got?
Well, we have lots of questions so far, and if you haven't done so already, go ahead and type your questions now or click the hand icon if you have a mic or you're on the telephone. We have our first chat question from Daniel. Does an inside sales agent, ISA, get paid by commission? How is the split done between the OSAs and ISAs?
Okay, first of all, I'm going to suggest that what you might want to do with your ISA is differentiate from someone who's training to be an ISA and someone who's proven to be an effective ISA. First of all, ISA is inside sales. In other words, the inside salesperson is the one calling back the leads and following up and ultimately booking appointments for the outside salespeople to go on. All right, that's how that works. Now, here's the deal. If you have a talented, effective inside salesperson, what your brain will think is, well, I guess they're everywhere. They grow on trees. But you will be disappointed when you discover that among the most skilled positions in the system, stop that, not among the most skilled positions, the single most skilled position in the Craig Proctor system is lead conversion using the universal callback script. Okay, so let me repeat that. The most skilled position in the Craig Proctor system is lead conversion using the universal callback script. It is not the listing presentation. It's not the buyer presentation. It's not showing properties or negotiating offers. None of that requires anywhere near the degree of skill as lead conversion. But just because you're making the calls and doing that position doesn't mean you're any damn good at it. So we need to differentiate here. In other words, what I'm going to suggest is this. You need to reward results. If you have an inside salesperson who's proven to be skilled at this very difficult position, then you need to reward them appropriately. Now, one of the mistakes that we made early on when Craig was developing the system, I mean, he invented doing it this way. There was no model to copy of outside sales agents and inside. Craig invented that system of running a real estate business. And the way that it worked was the outside sales agents were on a 50-50 split. So let me break this down. First of all, the RE/MAX office gets 5% right off the top. It's a 95-5 split. That's the RE/MAX deal for 25 years. All right, so on every transaction, 5% comes right off the top. Okay, now, the inside salesperson also gets paid a 10% commission up to a 13% commission. That comes right off the top as well. If they were involved in the transaction, of course, not every transaction was there an inside salesperson involved, right? But if they were, then that's what they get paid. That comes off the top. Now, the balance left is split 50-50 between Craig and the outside sales agent. But here's the honest truth. It doesn't need to be set up that way. And for those of you that are working with Todd in the Platinum program, you've talked about all kinds of different options. See, think about this. When you have an outside sales agent and you're actually giving them appointments, they don't have to generate leads. They certainly don't have to convert leads. All you're doing is you're giving them appointments, okay? If you're giving them appointments at absolutely no expense to them, it doesn't warrant a 50-50 split. In other words, because they spend their day working with clients and they spend no time or no money looking for them, an outside salesperson with a Craig Proctor team can be very, very, very profitable. And so the idea that they need to be on a 50-50 split is not really true. But also at the same time, here's the challenge. If I'm an inside salesperson and I am extremely good and talented on the phone converting prospects, and I know that the outside sales people could never do as effectively what I do, which is book appointments. All they do is go out on the appointments and give the buyer and listing presentations, okay? I know that what I do is more technically relevant. So watch this. I say, well, wait a minute. They're getting a 50-50 split and I'm getting 10 or 13%. I want to do what they do. I would rather do that. I'm not, they're on every transaction, they're getting more than double, triple what I'm getting to book the appointment in the first place, which requires more skill. Now, what happens is this. You have really good, skilled inside salespeople who want to become outside. And why wouldn't they? They can make way more money. So what has to happen is this. We need to find that balance where an effective inside salesperson is making closer, not as much, but closer to the amount per transaction as the outside salesperson. Okay, now, the benefit to the inside salesperson is their hours are much more flexible than the outside salesperson. In other words, one of the biggest benefits of inside sales is lifestyle. You can have a much more fixed, consistent, planned lifestyle as an inside sales agent than you can as an outside sales agent. Okay, and that is a big perk if you're somebody who's really skilled on the phone at lead conversion. But there's so much, I mean, this topic alone, we could spend an entire session just talking about this. The first thing I'll suggest is that you need to make sure that the reason you're hiring an inside salesperson is because you have too many leads, not because you don't want to call them. If you're generating, 3, 4, 5 leads a day, and you're going to delegate all those to an inside salesperson because you just don't want to do it, it's a big mistake. I'm not saying that you can't ultimately delegate, but you've got to be really, really good at this first. It makes training an inside salesperson a lot more effective and a lot more likely if you yourself are effective. And not only that, but once you become effective in converting the leads, you're going to stop yourself and say, wait a minute, do I really want to be delegating these leads? I mean, these leads are gold. When I call back to leads, I'm discovering timing and motivation. I'm booking appointments. This is money in the bank. And I don't even have to go on the appointments. I delegate the appointments to an outside sales agent, and I just sit and make another phone call and book another appointment. I mean, it's a pretty good gig. So the reason that you're hiring an inside salesperson is because you have too many leads. That's the only reason that you should be doing that. Here's something else to consider. You can include other incentives for the inside salesperson. For example, you might pay them $100 for every appointment that results in a contract. Don't pay them based on appointments, because I could set up an appointment with a gardener walking by. No problem, right? Appointments are easy to set. But what you'll find is if you reward appointments, the inside salesperson will book appointments that are premature or not warranted. What you want to do is you want to reward them for booking an effective appointment. So in other words, if I make a phone call and I book an appointment for an outside sales agent, and it's a buyer appointment, and the buyer shows up at the office and the outside sales agent signs them to a 12-month buyer contract, buyer agreement, then you pay a little bonus to the inside salesperson. You reward the inside salesperson immediately, and I'll tell you, it feels great. It's immediate gratification Remember this, when that buyer eventually buys and eventually the property closes, we're talking about a long wait before the inside salesperson gets paid any money, and what they get paid isn't a lot of money in comparison to you and to the outside salesperson. So having an immediate gratification for a contract signed at the appointment, even if it's $100, it's I'll tell you, you're going to find it's motivating. It's very, very motivating. So there's some ideas for you. I'm not saying you have to do that, but it's something to think about that isn't going to break the bank, and you're only rewarding it if a contract is signed, as I said. Okay, great question. Who's next, Andrea?
Okay, Alexandra typed in, I have a buyer appointment today in the area I normally don't sell. How do I deal with questions, objections if they ask me?
Well, you better educate yourself about the area. Now, did she say a buyer appointment or a listing appointment? I'm sorry.
Buyer.
A buyer. Okay, so you're meeting with a buyer who wants to buy a property in an area that you're unfamiliar with. I guess that's what's happening right here. Well, I would suggest that you have some time and you should familiarize yourself with the area. I mean, the more you know is better than less you know. You know, but again, I mean, I don't know exactly how specifically at the buyer presentation you're going to need to be with the area anyway, but I would suggest that you've got plenty of time to familiarize yourself on MLS with what's happening in the marketplace. Hopefully, you also have access to the Realty website with all of the statistics, and you can punch in the area and you can call up, like save in your history on your laptop, all of the statistics on the area. You will look like a freaking expert in the area. So you'll go from I'm not familiar with the area to you will look like you're the absolute expert in the area. Pull up some of the most relevant stats that you can find using the Leon Dancona's website there, Andrea. I always get confused as to what that website's called.
It is Reality.
Reality.
And I'm going to pull it up. Just give me 1 second.
Yeah, just have some pages bookmarked on it, and that way you can speak very intelligently and demonstrate absolute knowledge of what is happening in the marketplace of interest to your buyer prospect that you will surely sign to a contract. Cool deal.
Okay, we have a few audio questions now. Let me go to John Brackett. Your line is now open.
Did you say John Brackett? Hello?
I did.
Hey, John. How you doing, John?
Hey, buddy. I'm doing great. I appreciate you taking my call. You know, I just sent the question that I have via text. I'm sorry, message. So let me pull that up and reiterate that. So my question is this. So I have a team of 3 OSAs, and I held off on a CRM that I felt my team can use in anticipation of Commissions Inc. being able to have a CRM, or at least that's what I told, and I demoed that a little bit. So I start Commissions Inc. this month, and my question is this: is that CRM compatible to, say, something like Top Producer or Wise Agent? And what's your thought on that?
Here's what I have found with most of our students is that once they start using Commissions Inc., that contact management system, that's what they use. In other words, it is thorough enough that it does everything that you need. Here's what happens in the beginning. If you're using 2 different CRMs, you've got your Commissions Inc. and you're using, say, Top Producer or Wise Agent, you're operating on 2 different databases, or
right.
2 different day timers, and it's a cluster. So what you want to do is you obviously want to consolidate them. Now the truth is, you can take your Commissions Inc. leads and you can import them into any contact management system. So if you're comfortable with whatever it is that you're using, well, then keep using it. But if you talk to a lot of the Platinum members that are using Commissions Inc., that is what they use as their primary contact management system. And so it sounds likely that you'll do the same thing as well.
Okay, okay, perfect. I appreciate that. I just wanted to.
The bottom line is you aren't going to use two.
Right. Yeah. See,
Right.
I don't have Wise Agent or Top Producer now. I use something. I've been using Zoho for a while, and we've kind of customized it to our investment business, but
Yeah.
it's not as adequate now for sales, and so that's why I'm asking these
Well,
questions.
you're going to find that the Commissions Inc. is more than adequate. I mean, it was designed specifically for it. So
Okay, perfect, perfect.
you've,
I
you've
appreciate it.
solved you've solved two problems at
Okay,
once.
thank you.
Thanks, John.
Okay, hold on just one moment. We have a question typed in from Sarah, and it's quite a long question, but she doesn't have a mic, so I'm going to go ahead and ask it for her. You might need me to repeat some of the parts. It says, buyer-client problem. Signed up a client to a buyer rep a month ago. He got pre-approved with his contract at RBC. Apparently, RBC said he can't qualify for a mortgage right now. His words, he told me not to contact his rep at RBC unless he asked me to do so. This was 3 weeks ago. At the time, he suggested to speak with the mortgage broker. He declined the suggestion. I've been sending him listings for the past few months, or the past month, and he just called me and wanted to know how he can cancel our agreement. He isn't able to purchase right now. She goes on with a little more explanation. She wants to try to help him, but her cancellation policy is only if the client is unhappy with my services, not for any other reason. How does she handle this?
Well, first of all, what we have to do with this one is we have to learn from this one so that we can avoid it in the future. But if somebody has decided they don't want to do business with you, regardless of the reason, they're not going to. They're not going to. So instead of losing any more sleep over it, if they want to cancel the agreement, then cancel the agreement. You know, this would only be a dramatic experience if it was the only client that we had, right? But it isn't. You can generate a lot more, and whatever you did to procure that prospect or that client, you can do again and again and again. Having said that, though, I have to say that if you study carefully the buyer presentation, one of the biggest benefits in the buyer presentation is it talks about the benefit not only of being pre-qualified, okay, but it talks about the benefit of your involvement in their pre-qualification. And what you're going to specifically say from now on is this: when you go to the bank, RBC, whatever, when you go to the bank to get a home loan, you're a guy walking in off the street to get a home loan. You're not going to get anywhere near as favorable terms and conditions on your home loan as you would if you use me. Here's why. I work with affiliates not only at RBC, but at various lending institutions, and all of them work exclusively with me, and they all want my business from my clients. And in return, what they're willing to do is give you better than bank posted rates, terms, and conditions on a home loan. So do not shop for your home loan by walking into the bank. You will not get anywhere near as good. Now, there's two reasons we're saying this. One is because it's true, but two is to avoid circumstances like you've just discovered. Because I'll tell you what's happened here. This person has gone into the bank, and the bank has a preferred realtor for this client. And that's what's happened. In other words, now they've originated the client, and they've convinced the client that we're going to work on getting your finances in order, whatever it is, and we have a preferred realtor that we use. Like, that's what's happened here. Here's the thing. If you were the one involved with right from the meeting, right from the initial appointment, if they haven't been pre-qualified, or even if they have, you want to make sure that they get in touch with one of your affiliate lenders. That way, you're the preferred realtor. And the lender that you send them to, or the mortgage broker that you send them to, is going to be promoting you as being the be-all, end-all of realtors. But that didn't happen here. So the real answer to your question is, what do we do in the future to avoid this? Not how do we fix this. I don't think there's fixing it now. You could try. You could at least do an autopsy and ask them, like, what's the deal? Did they put you on some kind of a credit repair plan or what? You could do an autopsy at best. But the real benefit in this situation is to look and say, how do I avoid this from ever happening again? And the answer is, Look at the buyer presentation. It focuses to a degree, a big degree, on the benefit of not just being pre-qualified, but the benefit of you being involved in helping them with that process because of your relationships with preferred lender affiliates that will get them a much, much better deal than if they walk into the bank. But that didn't happen. Instead, what happened is they did walk into the bank. They did the very thing that we didn't want them to do that isn't as good for them and clearly isn't as good for you as well. So we're never going to do that again. Good question.
Okay, we have an audio question from Gail Christensen. Your mic is now open.
Hello,
Hello, who's this?
this is Gail Christensen.
Oh, how you doing, Cal?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Let me ask you a question. I have all these leads going on, and they're foreclosure leads. And I know this sounds funny, but do I send them foreclosure leads, or is there a place I can get foreclosure? I have the marble listing, of course, but what do I send them? Should I be sending them?
First of all, what does your ad say?
I have.
What does the ad they're responding to say? Because let me clarify, Cal.
Okay.
What the bank foreclosure ad says is this: foreclosures, distress sales, must-sell properties, fixer-uppers. In other words, we're not running an ad that only offers bank foreclosures. We're running an ad that offers great deals.
Okay.
Now, here's why we do that. What if I say, Cale, I'm looking for something in the 350 price range, and you go look on MLS, and there is no bank foreclosure in the 350 price range. Now, all of a sudden, you can't send me anything. There's no properties for me, but you want to send me properties. So in the ad, by saying distress sale, bank foreclosure, company owned, must sell, what it does is it now includes everything. So now when the prospect goes onto your website and they say, I'm looking for $350,000, you can go into MLS and you can pull off 10 properties in the $350,000 price range that match what they're looking for, and you can email them to them. And if one of them happens to be a foreclosure, great. If none of them happen to be a foreclosure, great. Doesn't matter. What now happens is you get to follow up with that prospect. And I get to say this: oh, hi, Cale. It's James calling with Remax Omega Realty. The reason I'm calling is I got your request for the distress sale list, and I just wanted to give you a quick courtesy call and let you know I did prepare and email those properties to you. I hope that's okay, Cale.
Okay.
Now you say, well, I'm not sure. It doesn't look like any of those properties are bank foreclosures, right? I mean, that would be the worst thing you could say, right? I could say this.
Right.
I could say, you know what, from time to time, foreclosures will come on the market that match your $350,000 price range. Cale, are you thinking about making a move in the next 3 to 6 months?
Right.
All I'm going to do is use the universal script, right? So, but the point is this: don't get all caught up in that you only are going to send them a foreclosure. That's why the ad says distress sales, because there is no definition for a distress sale. Right? A divorce is a distress sale. Right? A divorce.
Okay.
How about this? A property that's had a price reduction. Could I say that's a distress sale?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I could.
Okay.
I could if I could. Right? So this is why should there be a foreclosure? Great. But if there isn't, that's okay too.
Just send them a list.
Send them a list. Send them a list of properties that match what they're looking for. Now, here's the difference, Cal. What if you ran an ad and the ad said this: free list of bank foreclosure properties. That's it. Bank foreclosures only. Now you've put yourself in a position where when I say this, hey, Cal, I'm looking for a bank foreclosure that has 4 bedrooms, is between $320,000 and $330,000. I want it on the west side of town, and I want a corner lot. Guess what? You've got nothing to send me. You can't help me because there is nothing. But we don't want there to be nothing, because we know what is the likeliness, in your experience, Cal, what is the likeliness of that prospect buying a foreclosure?
Can I send the same list to all of them?
No, you can't. The prospect has defined what they're looking for.
Okay.
Hell, if I said to you, I'm looking for 350, and somebody over here said they're looking for 150, can you send them the same list?
Well, some of these, some of these people are not putting any price range in. Okay.
Okay, well that's a mistake. That's you need to make sure that when they're requesting the information, whether that's on your website or on your hotline, you're making sure to ask them to define their price point.
Okay.
That's critical. And doesn't that show motivation? If a buyer doesn't even tell you what price they're looking at, how motivated are they?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. And I'm saying,
No.
How do I handle this?
No. When they get to your website, Cale, when they get to your website, it needs to ask them what they're looking for. And it needs to ask them that first. It should simply say, describe what you're looking for. And we're going to ask the prospect to define what it is they're looking for. Price, bedrooms, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. All right? And that way we can send them a more beneficial list. Because the list won't be beneficial if you're sending them properties that are not in their price range.
Right.
And here's the thing. They're not going to see you as the provider of valuable information if the information that you've sent them isn't valuable.
Right.
Right. So you're starting off on the wrong foot to begin with. So, yes, it's imperative that they define what they're looking for. Good question. Sorry, go ahead.
Can I call them? Can I call them and do the universal call script and ask them basically what they're really looking for?
Yeah, but I wouldn't ask them that first. I would start off. I would say something like this. Oh, hi, Cale. It's James McDonald calling with Craig Proctor's office at RE/MAX. The reason I'm calling is because I got a request for you on my website for some distress sale, foreclosure, some good deals on properties for sale. And I was just curious if you're thinking about making a move in the next 3 to 6 months.
Okay.
And now I'm in the script. Now, if you sound like you're in the early stages or you're considering, then I'm just going to make you the offer and say, well, Kyle, you didn't describe on the website what you were actually looking for in terms of price and area, but would you like me to email you every day all of the properties as they come on the market that match specifically what you and your family are looking for, right down to any detail that would be really important to you? As those properties come on the market, I'll email them to you immediately so you can beat out other buyers that might be looking for the same thing. It's absolutely free. There's no obligation to buy anything. I can set you up on that right away. Would that be of interest to you, Kyle?
Yes.
Boom. And now I book an appointment.
Okay. That's good.
That's how you're going to do this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You're very welcome.
Our next question comes from Mark. He says, let's say I did a listing presentation and the client does not sign because he wants to think about what, I'm sorry, let me reread this question. Let's say I did a listing presentation and the client does not sign because he wants to think about it. What should I give him anyway? Example, graphs, stats. In other words, what documents should I not give him?
Yeah. Well, what you shouldn't do is you shouldn't give a price because, well, there are several reasons. First of all, if they're interviewing other realtors and you give them your price, well, then the other realtor is simply going to, quote them a higher price, and that's bad. But Craig talks about the personality, identifying the personality type. And if you're dealing with an SC type personality, it is very reasonable that personality type is going to want to think about it. And it's not that they're not going to use you. It's not that they don't think that you're great and competent and you're the one. It's that their personality does not allow them to simply make an important decision like this on the spot immediately. It's not how they work. They need to take time to ensure that they're doing the right thing. When you identify that personality type, you should encourage them. Not discourage them, not try to trick them, but the opposite, in fact. Here's what you want to do. We talked about that, and Andrea showed you the reality website. That's a gold mine for CNS-type personality sellers. That is a gold mine of information there that you could provide them with that would give them all kinds of market information for them to mull over and look at. But here's why it's so valuable, okay? What it is you're establishing that you are the provider of information. You are the expert. Because only an expert would have access to this kind of data, this kind of information. And so what clearly the impression that they're left with is that you're the expert, which is exactly the purpose of the presentation in the first place. So the more information you can leave them with, the better. What you don't want to give them, though, is a price, and you don't want to discuss your fee, because none of those things are relevant until they've made the decision to use you. So the simple question is this: provided we can come to an agreement on pricing your property effectively and on my fee, would you like me to handle this for you? And the answer is, well, no, we'd like to think about it tonight. Great. All right, well, let me give you some additional information, some data, some more details as to, where I gather my information about your property and marketing effectively your property to sell for the most amount of money. I'll give you all this information. You can sleep on it tonight. Would it be okay if I followed up with you, tomorrow? If the CNS type personality is going to wait, you'll be better to encourage than to discourage that. But you don't want to give them a price or discuss your fee until they've decided that you're the one to best help them. So that's the verbiage that Craig used very, very successfully. It works very, very well. Provided we can come to an agreement on pricing your property and on my fee, would you like me to handle this for you? Answer: no, I want to think about it. Great. So, but again, very likely that's the CNS type personality. Now, if you told me, well, no, this is happening all over and over again, every time this is happening, can I tell you what this is a result of? It's a result of an inadequate presentation. In other words, your presentation isn't good enough, it isn't thorough enough, and what's happening as a result of that is it's not that they want to think about it, it's that they're not convinced. You have not established yourself as the expert that they're looking for. So I would suggest the way to establish yourself more as the expert is not by just getting better at the presentation, but by presenting them with more relevant information about their property, about the marketplace, about their neighborhood, about home sales, all of that kind of information from reality.com that establishes you as the provider of information and as the expert. Good question.
Okay, our next question comes from Christy Thomas. If I know homes are selling for 100% of asking, how can I help them get the lowest price without jeopardizing their ability to get their offer accepted?
Christy is working with buyers or a buyer, and properties are selling for asking or over asking price. Okay, so Christy has educated her buyer that this is the reality in the marketplace. The reality in the marketplace is that there are multiple offers and that properties are selling for at or above asking price. So the guarantee for Christy to guarantee a savings on the property is probably not a very good idea. That's probably not a guarantee that you want to make unless you're perfectly okay with giving up your commission. But here's the thing. You're going to look silly if you say, well, I know I guaranteed that I could save you $5,000, but I'm going to suggest that we go in $1,000 over asking price. Your buyer's going to look at you and say, okay, so just let me hear this clearly. You're suggesting that I make an offer on this property for $1,000 over asking, but you've guaranteed me that you're going to save me $5,000. Here's my question. If you did that, would it make you look stupid? And everyone's nodding up and down saying, yeah, you'd look pretty dumb. So you don't do that. Okay, don't do that. What you're doing is you're educating your buyer as to what is actually happening in the marketplace and what you do to ensure that your offer is the best, most attractive offer to the seller. What you want to suggest is that's not only done with the price. It's done by having less conditions, by having solid financing in place. Okay, there are other ways that we can make our offer look most attractive, even if it, it isn't by simply offering them way more money than everybody else, because obviously that would not be in your best interest as the buyer. But that's the conversation that needs to happen at the beginning of the process, at the time of the appointment. Remember this, this is fundamental to the system. People want to do business with experts. People prefer an expert handle this than a hobbyist or salesperson. You absolutely must establish yourself as an expert. The more information you can provide them as to your knowledge of the marketplace, the more they see you as an expert. Now, here's why this is critical. Not only do people want to work with experts, but they are far more likely to heed the advice of an expert. So when you tell them, look, this is what we need to do to get this property, and they see you as the expert, they're far less likely to second guess your suggestion because they deem you to be the expert. You're the one that's clearly established. You know what the deal is. You know what's happening. But if you haven't done that effectively enough and they see you more as the salesperson, the opposite is true. And they're less likely to listen to your advice. And so you've got to frame this at the very, very beginning of the process, not when it's too late. But one thing I would definitely not recommend doing under the circumstance you've just painted, do not offer them a $5,000 savings guarantee, because you're not going to be able to perform. And that's going to make you look the opposite of an expert. It's going to make you look like you failed. Even if you say, well, I don't mind giving up $500 of my commission. Yeah, but think of how that's going to look to the buyer. If you give them an offer that says, I guarantee to save you $5,000, they find a property, and your suggestion is they put in an offer at or above asking price to get it, you're going to look like, but wait a minute, I have in my hand here, you said that you'd save me $5,000, now you're telling me to pay more. It would make you look the opposite of an expert. It would make you look like a shyster. And under that circumstances, you do not want to do that. I think that's clear. Okay, thank you.
Okay, our next member is wondering where they get the material for the Ad Clinic webinars. And if you're talking about the past ads that we've looked at, you just go to Resources, Ad Clinic, and then you can just, whatever date, if you know the date, or if you just want to look through all of them, we go all the way back to April 2015. So that's where you can find those. If you're speaking about some other materials, just let me know and I'll help you. Okay, we have Cindy. Other than role-playing session, is there role-playing options to do between other coaching members? If so, how do we get in touch?
That's a good question. I really like that. I know that for some of our students that have been involved for some time now, that they've got little groups, or they've partnered up with somebody where even if they just spend half an hour doing some role playing back and forth together, privately, it's a really, really good idea. And it's also why we really encourage you to come to the boot camps. Come to the boot camps, come to the super conferences, because that's where you meet people, other students of the system that you really get along with, and you can set up exactly these kinds of relationships where you can do some additional role playing and you can sort of lean on each other a little bit. It's a really, really good idea. In the meantime, what I'll tell you to do is this. If that sounds like something that you'd be interested in, and you're not going to be coming to the boot camp in San Francisco on the 15th of January, just type your interest into the chat, and we'll see how many if we have anybody else. And Andrea, maybe you can pass along each other's information for anyone that would be interested in doing that, because it is a really good idea.
Yes. So what I'll need you to do is just say I'm interested and give me an email address that you feel comfortable providing other members, and then I will send an email afterwards to those members who are interested. Okay, our next question from Chuck. I am mailing 8,000 postcards to a target area. I put my primary USP on the front of the card. I have been coached to put testimonials on the back. I want to put 3 more seller benefits on the back. Which has been the best at generating leads?
Well, first of all, I got to back up the bus a little bit here. If you want to generate, if the best, this is direct mail, right? 8,000 postcards, you said?
Yes.
If what you want to do is generate leads, what you'll very likely find is that a less branded message is going to generate more leads than a branded message. Okay, so right off the bat, offering, for example, find out what your home is worth online will probably generate more leads than any branded message, depending on what's happening in the marketplace. If you can promote a really bold USP, for example, if it said, your home sold guaranteed, or I'll buy it myself. That's a pretty bold guarantee. That's a good lead generator as well. If you're going to use testimonials, though, you got to use testimonials that further enhance whatever unique selling proposition that you're using. And it all boils down to this: the amount of money they got for their property and the speed and ease at which they sold it. Right? Simple as that. Now, got to remember this though, okay? When the postcard is placed in the mailbox, it's going to be placed with the Every Door Direct or the stamp up, which means when the prospect takes it out of their mailbox, that's the side they're going to read. And so whatever your headline is, understand that's what they're going to see first. And it's going to establish whether they keep it or whether they throw it away. So whatever you're using as your USP, it needs to be highly, highly visible and grab the prospect by the throat as they're sorting their mail, over the recycling bin. So what is on the rest of the postcard becomes irrelevant if that isn't accomplished in the first place. So focus on that. As far as testimonials, any testimonial that focuses on the amount of money you sold their home for, the speed at which you sold their home, the ease at which you sold their home, those are the effective type of testimonials that you can include much more effectively. And by the way, just because it's branded doesn't mean you also can't offer on there a free over-the-net evaluation of your home. Find out what your home is worth online. You can do that on your postcard as well. My suggestion is go onto the website, both the coaching website and bxlprinters.com, and look at different branded postcard examples of what Craig used successfully to sell 500 homes a year, every year, over and over again for 15 straight years. That would give you a pretty good head start, and it would share with you how absolutely unnecessary it is for you to reinvent the wheel, for you to come up with, what postcard should I do? I got an idea. Why don't you start with the postcards that sold 500 homes a year, every year, over and over and over again, for 15 years straight? That's where you start. And you'll see plenty of examples of branded direct mail examples on the websites. Got a little carried away there. Didn't I, Andrea?
You're passionate about it.
I am. I really am.
Okay, our next question from Marcia. I was wondering if you could review the best statistics to use in our marketing and how best to display them when we're trying to sell homes.
Okay. Well, that's easy. Okay, so what you want to look at number of home sales, because what that does is it shows supply and demand. Okay, so let me repeat that. The volume of sales shows is helpful because supply and demand, is dictated by that. But what you also want to look at is inventory. So if you're looking at a bar graph of the 12 months, the last 12 months, and the bar graph indicates the number of properties for sale in inventory, would that be valuable information? Absolutely. So first is number of sales, then there's availability of property, inventory. Then you want to look at list to sales price ratio, and then you want to look at actual home prices. In other words, what homes are selling for on average. Okay, those are the four most important things that you can look at. And maybe a fifth I'd throw in there is the speed at which homes are selling. But what you're going to find is there's a direct correlation between the inventory and the speed at which homes are selling. So when there's demand, obviously the homes sell a lot faster. And you'll see obviously that there's that correlation. So this is a really good example. Okay, it's January. People want to wait till the spring. Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I understand that sounds like it might be a really good idea, but I want you to consider something. When every seller in the spring decides that that's the best time to sell their home and everybody puts their property up for sale, let's take a look at what happened last year in the spring when all of the inventory came on the market and there was a flood of supply. Now, you remember your sophomore economics course? When there is an abundance of supply all of a sudden and the demand stays the same, or the demand doesn't grow to the extent of the supply, what happens to price? And what happens to the speed? But showing is a lot more powerful than telling. And the great thing about these statistics is it tells the story so that the seller can come to their own conclusion. That's a great question. So there's my answer. All right, Andrea, let's take a couple more here.
Okay, our next question from Austin. When a new prospect signs into our sync search page, they see our names and phone number and photo. If they don't pick up the call, are we okay to leave them a detailed voicemail at that point? Or should we still be treating them as a new lead without leaving a message? They're saying since they already know who they are, there's no point in hiding it.
Yeah, I get that, but I just think that what you're going to find is this. If you test head-to-head, leaving a message versus not, you'll probably find that not leaving a message is not only less time-consuming, but it's more effective. The problem with leaving a message is that when you then call the prospect back again, because they aren't going to call you back. So when you attempt to try to call them back again, because you've already left a message and they know it's a realtor, they become less likely to answer the call than had you not left a message. And you're going to discover that yourself, but I do not dissuade you from testing that and coming to that conclusion all by yourself. Very likely that is exactly the conclusion that you will come to. That makes sense? Okay, now Andrea, before we wrap it up here for today, for our very first helpline session of 2016, I really do want to make sure that everybody that is on the West Coast, not that you're eliminated if you're not from the West Coast, but certainly if you are on the West Coast, I want to make sure you at very least know that we're conducting our full-day coaching member-only boot camp on January 15th. We've had many of you, maybe even most of you, confirm one way or the other whether you're attending, but some of you haven't. And I have to tell you, if you're on the fence, come to the event. Especially if you've never done a boot camp before. It's a full day of working on your business. We're going to do panels. We're going to have plenty of examples. It's an amazing day. Nobody ever regrets spending a day at the boot camp. There's no cost to it. It's only for coaching students. It's a chance to spend an entire day focused and working on your business. And the real kicker is it's at the very beginning of the year. What a perfect time to start your 2016 with clarity in everything new that you're going to be doing this year. So again, I can't encourage you enough, and I hope that you confirm with us that you're going to be coming to the boot camp. We're not selling anything. It's not for newbies. It's only for our coaching students. So it's a chance to really, get cracking and make sure you have the clarity that you're looking for and a plan in place. So for everyone that's coming to San Fran on the 15th of January, can't wait to see you. Okay, Andrea, thanks so much for your help today. Do appreciate it. Thursday, we're going to be doing our role play session. We've got some coaching sessions. Craig's back tomorrow. And I know he's completely recharged and looking forward to speaking with everybody. Thursday's our role play session. Friday is our ad clinic session, and we're really going to hit the ground running. So thanks so much, everybody, for participating. And Andrea, thanks for your help as always, too.
Thank you, James. Thank you, everyone, for joining. This officially ends the webinar for today. Talk to you all very soon.